To receive coaching on how to create and grow a YouTube channel, invest in real estate, or achieve financial freedom, visit cashnow.video. Hey, what's up guys? John here. Retirees have so far lost a whopping $3.4 trillion. $3.4 trillion in the markets so far in 2022. Now I have a prediction of what I see happening. It's an unfortunate prediction because these retirees, they've worked so hard the last 50 years. They've worked very, very, very hard throughout the 80s, the 90s, early 2000s, 2010. They've been just putting away money every single paycheck to have that safe and comfortable retirement. And now they're finally here. They made their monthly payments on their mortgage. They paid their house off. They sent their kids to college. They did everything that they were supposed to. They were promised this, relaxing retirement. And this is all getting pulled from them. It's a very sad and unfortunate situation, but the real devastation, unfortunately, is in front of us. Because if we look at what happened over the last couple of years, it just gets gradually worse, right? Every month, every quarter, it's just a little bit more challenging, whether it be oil prices, inflation, whether it be problems overseas. Things are just getting progressively more challenging. And so, with that being said, we have to understand that, I wish this wasn't the case, right? But we have to understand where we're actually headed. And what I think is going to happen is I think that we're going to start seeing retirees start to really panic. They're going to start to panic, especially as we enter this quantitative tightening. We're kind of in it already, but the markets I don't think have truly absorbed the depth in which we're really going to tighten up. I think, Jerome Powell said that he wants to bring inflation to 2%, right? And so if they bring inflation to 2% and they claim that we're at 8.6%, that means that we have many, many, many hikes ahead of us, right? And the more that interest rates hike, the more that, growth stocks, we start to see get pulled back. Investors are not going to invest in companies that have no cash flow. A lot of companies are going to start doing massive layoffs. We're going to see the markets change. We're going to see the markets change in a big way. And unfortunately, a lot of retirees, their retirements are baked into this. And so as this change happens, they could potentially lose even more and more, potentially, right? And we could also start to see investors look at how they're going to invest their money and what they're going to do, because they don't want to take risk in these markets, right? They don't know what's going to happen the next 6 months or a year. And all of this, I think, is going to just change the entire landscape of the U.S. economy. And I think this is going to make things even more challenging for retirees. My grandmother worked in a box factory and my grandfather worked in a glass factory. They worked so hard for 50 years. They saved up for their retirement, and they didn't live outside their means by any stretch of the imagination, right? And they were fortunate enough to enjoy their retirement. They passed away recently, but this was before all the chaos. They were able to enjoy their hard work. Not everyone's going to get that, unfortunately, going forward. Look at this. So, as of right now, there's 69.6 million people between ages 58 to 76, right? About 70 million people. You have 70 million people out of a population of 325 million, right? Which leaves about 44.6% of the population they own, of the retirees own homes, right? So 44.6%, which is an astounding 31 million homes in America. 31 million homes in America. And 45% of them have no savings. So you put this in a perspective, 3.2 million in, 3.4 trillion technically in overall losses as of now, 3.4 trillion. You have 45% of a pool of 31 million homes that, they have no retirement savings or no, savings to fall back on. And all their money is tied up in the markets. So what is this going to look like? I think we're going to see a couple things. It's an unfortunate situation, but I think we're going to see a couple things happen. I think we're going to see retirees start to be forced to list their properties for sale and sell their homes, and potentially either go with their children or with someone else. I think we're going to start to see more collaborative living for retirees. We're going to see more home inventory over the next year or two due to people, no longer being able to comfortably retire. And we're also looking at a lot of people that are going to be entering retirement at the same era, right? The same period. People in their early 50s, mid 50s that are thinking about retirement, that are planning for this, are also seeing the writing on the wall, that things are just getting progressively worse. It's more likely that oil prices and food prices will likely get much more expensive, and that it's unsafe to bank on a 3% inflation. Because they say we're at 2% now. 2% is the goal now, and we're at 8.6%. A lot of people would argue that that is probably closer to 18.6% or 28.6%, right? Things are much more expensive. And so what I see happening here is I just see a lot more home inventory going on the market over the coming couple of years. And I'm going to bet that we're going to start to see our living standards in America change in a very big way. And we're no longer going to get access to all the beautiful amenities that we were, privileged to have over the last, many decades. A lot of that's going to start getting pulled out. It's going to start getting pulled out in a big way. Take a look at this. So this came out yesterday. Both 401k and IRA accounts nationwide have lost an estimated combined amount of $3.4 trillion since January. Boston College Center of Retirement Research Director Alicia Monell published her estimates of the losses on Tuesday. Her estimates are based on the assumption that markets have dropped 20% recently. The S&P is down 21%, with the NASDAQ Composite down 30%, and the Dow Jones down 16% since the year began. IRA accounts have lost $2 trillion, while 401ks have lost $1.4 trillion, according to Monell. Most of the investments in 401k are rolled into IRA accounts, so Monell claimed both reflect the overall economic outlook. Investment management company Vanguard reported that currently about 72% of 401k plans are invested in equities. Individuals have also turned to holding equities instead of retirement accounts. However, even these have been affected, with 2021's holdings of $32.2 trillion decreasing by $6.4 trillion according to Monell's calculations. Vanguard also reported that people with lower income owned more high-risk equities than their higher income counterparts. Those with incomes less than $30,000 had 81% of their investments in equities, while those with higher incomes with $150,000 had 76% of investments in equities. Typically, those with higher incomes take on the higher risk. So we're seeing across the board, trillions and trillions of getting completely wiped out here. The big question I have is what is inflation going to look like over the next 5 years, right? Because we're hearing about higher gas prices. We're hearing about higher costs. What is this actually going to look like? I personally think that if you're a retiree right now, you're planning for it, got to be very, very strategic, very strategic. I'm not telling you to go off and sell or do anything like that. I'm not saying that. Be strategic and forward thinking. If things do continue, what is the plan? What is the strategy, right? And I think that a lot of people, we can learn a lot in this market right now. We can learn so much, because what have we learned so far? That you can't bank on anything being the same. Nothing will stay the same. And we're stepping into uncertainty. And so the more options you have, the better off you are going to be. And so how can you bake out options? You could either, potentially start a business, might be challenging if you're a retiree, or, reduce living expenses, or potentially rent a room or rent rooms in your house. You can figure out certain ways, certain strategies to be creative, because unfortunately it seems like this is the option in which people are forced into. But the younger generation can learn from this. When the government says, your retirement is going to be set, or we're going to, take care of X, Y, Z for you, we've all saw how that worked out in the past. Look at, California. Look at some of these other states saying that they promise to pay landlords and take care of the landlords, but the landlords have, received 2 to 4%, in some cases 5% of all of the unpaid rent in which they were promised. Right? In Florida, 2% of all past due rent that was, that they said they were going to take care of was actually distributed to landlords. Right? And so it's almost like every man or woman for themselves. And so we can learn a lot from what landlords have been through, what people in retirement are going through right now. We have to be smart. We have to be strategic. We have to be forward thinking. We can't rely on anyone. And the more options you have, the better you're going to do in this uncertain environment. What do you think about this entire situation? Do you think that retirees' losses are likely only going to progress and continue to go down this direction? Or do you think we're going to see a situation in which maybe we recover and stocks go back up? Drop your comments below. If you need help fixing your credit, maybe you have a credit score that is holding you back, cashnow.video. You want to learn about real estate investing? You want to get started on YouTube? Build out a YouTube channel, cashnow.video. If you want to, let's say for example, you are a school teacher, a professor, you had some type of skill when you were younger, you should pursue it on YouTube. There's a big audience out there that's looking to learn, that's looking to grow, and you build an audience and create value for that audience, and great things will come. Cashnow.video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.